Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to NGLCC Sip and Pitch Fridays. I'd like to give a special shout out today to today's program sponsor, JPMorgan Chase. And for those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Lauren Schweppe. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm our Director of Programs and Stakeholder Advocacy here at NGLCC. So before we get started, I'd like to spotlight for you all our upcoming event this November, which I'm sure most or all of you have heard of thus far, but it should be a great event. Our Back to Business Summit will be at the Diplomat Resort in Hollywood, Florida on November 17th to 19th. It'll feature our Best of the Best awards as well as our Gala awards. It'll be a great event, and we're really excited for our first return to in-person events. So let's get started. I'd love to introduce our judges today from our host, JPMorgan Chase. We have Anna Valerio, Vice President of Supplier Diversity and Relationship Manager, Brad Baumel, Managing Director and Global Head of LGBT Affairs, and Tracy Dennis, Vice President of Business Development and Global Supplier Diversity at JPMorgan. So we are really excited to have this esteemed panel of judges for us today. So to get started, I'd like to go over some rules and guidelines. Each company presenting has 5 minutes to pitch, and there's only one presenter from each participating company. Judges have 10 minutes for feedback and Q&A. And no presentation, no problem. This is informal and is designed to provide real-time feedback for our presenters. So no worries if you don't have a presentation. A reminder that if you are not speaking, please mute your microphone. Also, if you haven't done so already, please use the rename feature here on Zoom to add your pronouns in next to your name. Team NGLCC, the wonderful Sean Honesty. Sean, can you say hello for everyone?
Hi, everyone. I'll be running the timer here.
There he is. Thanks so much, Sean. So Sean will be giving our presenters warnings at 1 minute and at 30 seconds. Unfortunately, we can't do any sort of gong or ding sound on Zoom. So this is the best way we have to keep you on time and provide those reminders for you. And this is a judgment-free zone. So all of this is in the spirit of helping you improve your pitch. So all feedback is shared in the spirit of collaboration. And last, but certainly not least, have fun. So now I'd like to turn it over to our first presenter today, John Sotomayor from Embrace Magazine. John, take it away.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Sotomayor. I am publisher and editor-in-chief of Embrace Magazine. It is a magazine from my parent company, Sotomayor Media Creations, LLC. We are LGBTQ owned and minority operated. I'm Hispanic. And so you understand our story a little bit. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I went to law school in Washington, D.C. With the intent of becoming a litigation attorney, but was outed while I was in law school. And this was back in the early 90s. People basically wanted to give me trouble for being LGBTQ. So I had difficulty with that. I wanted to build relations between straight community and gay community. And every publication I've seen did not really address bridge building between both communities. So I found this important platform to add to mine. So Embrace Magazine is about building bridges between gay and straight, being all inclusive and having a diverse group of people involved. Of our staff, we have 15 staff, of which 2/3 are LGBTQ, the rest are straight. And we have platforms for everyone, all artists, to include their work in there. So we have transgender columnists, we have lesbian photographers, writers, you have it. Our publication is published quarterly. It is in both digital and print platforms. And we are currently reaching throughout the state of Florida, but are looking to expand already in a national base. To give you a quick preview, this was our premiere issue right there. I don't know if you can see that. Our second issue was the Heroes issue. Our third was the Arts issue. And fourth, most recently, is the Business issue. We're currently working on our Advocacy issue, which will be out within a week or so. In our first year of publication, we've already gotten some, broken some barriers and had made some history. One of the things that what differentiates our magazine from others is we also include a religious or spiritual component. So we are a member of the Associated Church Press. It's an organization that was established in 1916 and we are the first LGBTQ member publication. That made history. We also were the first award winners in a national competition with Best News Story, first and second place. In addition, we are members of the Florida Magazine Association, the first LGBTQ publication member of that organization, established in 1953. The Charlie Awards were established in 1957. We're the first award winners with that. That most recent award ceremony, they granted us with 21 awards, which included Best New Magazine, Charlie, Best Overall Magazine, Best Overall Written, both Charlies, Best Overall Design, Silver, and Best Overall Digital Innovator. So all 4 categories, we were the only magazine to place. In addition, they awarded us with the coveted Magazine of the Year. We're the first, thank you very much. We're the first publication to ever achieve that in our first year. I believe the other one was Flamingo Magazine in their 6th year. So that goes to show how well we received by the Florida Magazine publications. So what does that mean for the community? Well, what that means is that we're making grounds in these levels and getting attention from a media base so we can grow and expand. Already there's been interest in collaborating with us on multiple levels, and we've been promoted highly. They featured me on the cover of Locala magazine for the work that we've been doing, and have also been featured in other magazines like BEQ Pride in New York City, where they covered our story in depth here, somewhere in these pages. Again, making some ground, getting some exposure. And what we're hoping to do as a startup is get other corporations and companies engaged with us so that we can expand even greater. We have another platform that we're looking to do called Embrace Media, which will include digital, video and podcasts in our website so that we're all inclusive in all media. So when we're covering events, we have the capacity of event coverage, celebrity interviews, political interviews, behind the scenes footage and all that stuff. So I'm very excited about the growth of the publication. I welcome everyone to check us out on www.embracemagazine.us and check out our website there for all new content digital as well. I welcome the judges' questions. I'm not really sure what else I can say to this presentation. Yeah, very looking forward to presenting more and working on the next issue, which again is the advocacy issue.
Great. Well, John, thank you so much for your presentation. And judges, I'll turn it over to you. Brad, would you like to get us started with feedback for John?
Sure, happy to. John, thank you very much, and congratulations on your early wins and success records. Really thought it was well done, how you laid out where you've come from, your focus. I'm not sure I'm totally clear yet on how you want to expand and where you want to grow. So like you did say, you wanted to connect with other partners, corporations to expand, but tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. Already we've been told that we have the basis of a national publication. Because we're such a small startup, not nearly the numbers that you would imagine a national publication to have. I don't dare say we're there yet. But with the collaborations of some corporate sponsors, Fortune 500 companies, to anchor our revenue base, then we can definitely expand on that. And there definitely is room to grow. I do welcome everyone to look at our digital magazines on the website so they can see what kind of content we're providing. It is definitely all inclusive. It is not just fluff material. We have won awards for our investigative reporting, our public service coverage, our inclusivity of all. Our departments are very strong base. I should have said this earlier. I've had about 15 to 20 years experience in other lifestyle magazine publications. So I utilize that experience to expand on this. When I did my research on LGBTQ publications, I did not see many that really followed the format that I'm following for lifestyle publications, consumer publications. So it is unique in that standpoint too, what we're offering.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Brad, for that feedback. Tracy, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you, John, so much for that great presentation. I really did also appreciate your personal story and giving us the insight into the ethos and the impetus of why this magazine, this venture, this, hopefully media conglomerate you're trying to expand into for the future is really rooted in something personal, which was great. And similar to Brad's question, I think I was more curious to hear a bit more about some of the metrics and the numbers of the growth you're hoping to see in terms of your number of your subscribers, certain ad partner revenue. You mentioned going into potentially video and podcasting, which are two very crowded industry spaces. And so curious to kind of see how you're planning to measure success and growth and scale in that way. And then given your experience with other lifestyle magazines, kind of what would you look for to kind of see promising growth in those spaces as you continue to expand into those newer segments?
Absolutely. First, I should say that our digital magazine platform is issue.com. And so searching on their analytics, we can see that we're read on 6 continents around the world. The only one we have not reached is Antarctica because there are no human people down there. But otherwise, we're read everywhere on the planet. And what's also fascinating to me is that we're read in parts of the world that are traditionally homophobic. So parts of Africa, the Middle East, parts of Asia. We're reaching into those communities. So already we're making an impact with that. One of the departments that we have within the back is international news. So we covered interesting fights in Europe, in Asia. I believe that's where we covered mostly right now as a startup quarterly publication, but we're making movements in there that we're trying to reach out to India next, but we're still working on that story. And so it's about empowerment. It's about inclusivity across the world. The numbers are still very new. Like I said, we started 2 years ago as a concept, 2019. It was June 2019 with the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, where I announced the launch of this magazine as a concept and then launched it as a publication by May 2020. As you all know, the epidemic hit by then. So that greatly impacted how we were able to move forward with our advertisers because everybody was basically closing up their marketing campaigns and then distribution as well. So despite all the obstacles in the way, we were able to move forward with the 4 issues that I showed you. We're on point, we're on time with everything and able to carry forth. So my hope is that as things subside with COVID and people are moving forward, we're able to also move forward as that with partnerships and collaborations.
Great, thank you for that.
Thanks so much, Tracy, for that feedback. And last but certainly not least, Anna, any feedback for John? Oh, Anna, I think you're muted.
Oh, I didn't know that I unmute myself. Okay, rookie mistake. So thank you, John. I really enjoyed your pitch today. I'll get right to it, right? Because you're here for feedback. In a normal situation, you probably wouldn't have a 5 minutes hurry up and go or a timer, to say the least, right? So that does, we can't hold that against you. That does kind of take away from the intent behind your pitch. What I wanted to hear a little bit more about was your why, right? So making that immediate connection is crucial. As a very small example, when I introduce myself, I try to find at least a 5 to 7 second sentence or a couple of sentences to indicate, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, I want people to remember, Anna works at a bank, she does supplier diversity. That's great. Anna works at a bank, she does supplier diversity because her dad was an MBE and she's trying to live out that legacy. A couple other things that, you mentioned, focus on your uniqueness, right? So you mentioned a little bit about how your publication is unique. I would focus on that because everyone's going to ask the same questions. Why are you different, right? So that's another thing I wanted to mention. And then a little bit to what Brad was mentioning is think about what your ideal client would look like. Is think about who you want to be as an organization and a publication in 5 to 10 plus years. Think about how you would introduce yourself at that point to help motivate you and speak highly to, our goal is to be, and with Fortune 500 and what have you. And then when you're highlighting your strengths, I would probably not mention, I think Flamingo was one of the examples that you gave, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're the one that wants to highlight your wins, right? So no need to highlight the others. You're the one that needs to be kind of on center stage.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Anna. As pertaining to my why, I'm glad you asked that question because I would like to elaborate more on that. I'm originally from New York City, born and raised there. And as I mentioned before, went to law school in Washington, D.C. So I had the great opportunity to live my gay truth, in those big metropolitan cities and explore myself. I now live in Ocala, Florida, which is a very small town here, pretty much Bible Belt, Florida. And most of the gay community I come across live very closeted. So to even bring out an LGBTQ publication in this town stunned the Florida publication community. Like, you didn't move to St. Petersburg or to Miami, you stayed in Ocala. And so to utilize the space to show the importance of bringing forth the bridge building of the gay and straight community, we were able to show strong allegiances here. Even in Ocala and in this day and age, people want to step forward and help out. More towards my why, I used to be the publisher of Ocala magazine. I'm not publisher, the executive editor of Ocala magazine years ago. And the publisher there asked to do a story on gay life. It was never done before in the community. It was for a story that fell through. And I said, I think it's a great idea we're doing this, but I don't think we should do it as a filler story. We should give it more time to develop it, 3-4 months, whatever, and she agreed. So we did one. And I thought to myself, what is Ocala Marion County all about? And they're all about faith and families. So I did that from the perspective of the LGBTQ community. And we got some couples to step forward, how they're raising their kids, how they're interactive with faith, things that a lot of people would never even thought to have covered, So we explored those areas, and it was very well received as a story. That got me thinking, if I ever could do a magazine, LGBTQ, this is what I want to do. This is to move forward this way, especially because we kind of expected a backlash and got none. If anything, we got tons of letters of support. I came out in my editor's letter, and other colleagues in media congratulated me for that. They said, congratulations, John, for stepping forward and taking a stand for your community and this marginalized base here. So that's what kind of motivated me, and saw the need to do this in the community here. And businesses stepped forward. Again, this was the premier issue. And we got BMW as a 2-page story in there. Ocala Horse Properties, 2 pages. This is prestigious $1 million listings, and they are an LGBTQ-owned business, the Decino brothers. We got Christian Isles hair care products out of Dallas, Texas, and on, and Porsche on the back, and many different businesses here in town, all contributing to this. So the message that we got was that Ocala's ready, and perhaps the nation's ready. Also, in the business issue, one of the motivators for me was the Ocala Marion County Chamber of Commerce here, known as the CEP. They are the #1 chamber right now for mainstream chambers, awarded by the ACCE, and we got a story in there with them. I'm very close to the CEP, Kevin Shealy, and we did a full story on what they're doing to become #1, and how LGBTQ chambers can also benefit from that. But then also we contacted the GSBA out in Seattle and got their feedback as one of the oldest chambers in the country and one of the founders of the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. So to be able to add stories of that element, combining both straight and gay in there, is groundbreaking. For Ocala, there's no other way to put it. There's no one else would even tackle something like this. And that's what we're trying to do. And so far successfully. So that's my why.
Yeah, to find, no, that's incredible. And definitely find a way to integrate your why. There were some things that you mentioned after you started talking about your why that was important for me, when you said that no one else is doing this. And when you talked about the stories that you brought to light, that could resonate with somebody in the room when you're doing your pitches. And the last thing I will add is, if you're doing pitches, in an actual physical space, I probably wouldn't give them all of the magazines. I would try to outline a lot of that, whether it be a PowerPoint, give them a chance to read through them ahead of time in case they have questions, because you'd be able to put together, I'm sure, a handful of slides just listing out all of your accomplishments. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna.
Sure.
Great. Well, thank you so much to our judges for that feedback. And John, thank you to you for your presentation today. I'd now like to move to our second presenter of round one, Paige Weiss with Tree Ring Digital. Paige, take it away.
Hello, great, thank you. Let me get the PowerPoint up. We will share. All right, I'm in the middle of the slide. All right, I'm Paige Weiss. I'm the founder and CEO of Tree Ring Digital. We are a LGBT-owned, women-owned small business, and we focus on the strategy, the creativity, and the results of the digital marketing arena, from everything from advertising and digital marketing to website development and printing. We really focus more on how do we guide the user, or like not even the user, but the company from start to finish in the journey. So we've been in business for over a decade, and we've been offering creative, practical, and customized digital marketing and website development solutions to help businesses thrive. As a minority-owned small business with the NGLCC, BE, and the WeBank certification, Tree Ring Digital is committed to outstanding service and providing our corporate clients with tangible results. And the ways that we kind of do that is going to be through website development. So we focus on developing high-functioning websites compared to brochure websites, through website maintenance to continue to make sure that those websites stay live, that they aren't experiencing downtime, and they continue to function the same way that it was intended when we originally built the website. Through graphic design services, which could either fall into the design element of the websites, or it could be through marketing materials such as banners, pop-up banners, it could be brochures, logo design, etc. And then helping them through the printing for trade shows or in-store point of sale merchandise and whatnot. And then we also then dive into more of the marketing side, which would be the paid advertising through Google Ads and additional advertising platforms, also including YouTube videos. We do search engine optimization and helping those organizations rise in the search engines and showing up more visibly when people are searching for the services, social media management, as well as analytic and reporting. Different industries that we have served are automotive, manufacturing, hospitality, energy, health and wellness, food and beverage, IT and telecom, and construction. Being in business for the past decade, we have just helped every industry across the board. We are starting to hone in and niche in certain ones, or just seeing more needs in certain industries. But part of the fact of us working in so many industries has really helped us look at big pictures and be able to see, this is working in this industry, how can we apply it over here and get the same results? Where a lot of companies that are focused on one specific industry are just doing the same thing day in and day out, and it turns into be much more cookie cutter. We are more focused on how do we think outside of the box to provide the results that the clients are looking for, and really looking at all of the resources and tools that we can to make that happen. And then, like I said, the last piece then is going to be the delivering of the results. And so we've seen this come in a couple capacities. Because we do the design and the development of the website, as well as marketing implementation, it allows us to take our results and tracking a step further than most marketing agencies. Most marketing agencies are going to stop at how many people clicked an ad and made it to a website, where we are going to not only take a look at that, but we are actually going to go into where did we lose them in the journey? Where do we set up KPIs throughout to be able to quickly identify, we got them to this page, they took action here, but they dropped off before taking the next action, and we need to improve this process. We then work with the client to be able to improve that process on the website. And now this is what really allows our clients to see the success and the results, and see that their marketing dollars are going to a good use, and it's not just a waste of money. We're also a company that would be quick to say, we're going to stop the ads or pause them, turn them down, back, whatever. And we're actually going to focus on your website and clean up that performance before we move forward, so we're not wasting money. Or let's keep this moving, but let's get a specific landing page in place. A lot of, we have had companies also ask us just to do tracking specifically without some of the website development or marketing. A couple of our clients are Full Speed Automotive, one of the nation's largest franchisor and operator of automotive aftermarket repair. EIS Holdings, one of the largest providers of environmental and infrastructure services in the United States. Molson Coors, which is the fifth largest beer company in the world, as well as Xcel Energy, one of the largest clean energy providers. Just a couple examples of some work, whether that be graphic design, branding, or website design and development. And we already went through some of the differentiators of just that strategy through development, implementation, and reporting. And a couple of our certification and awards that we have won over the years.
All right, great. Well, Paige, thank you so much for that presentation. Judges, I will turn it over to you for your feedback. And Tracy, would you like to get us started?
Sure. Thank you so much, Paige. That was a great presentation. I appreciated the slide deck. I was trying to capture some notes, but the 30-second time even got me kind of frazzled. So you did a great in terms of, delivering poise and getting all the information out about your company and your offerings. So was really pleased to hear that. I also really enjoyed how you mentioned you don't have a one target customer audience and you work across multiple industries, which I think was helpful to get a sense of the versatility and, agileness of the work you provide in terms of working with different sectors. But if you had to choose one particular industry segment where you feel like you've had the most added value or expertise thus far, is there one that you feel like you have, working with a client segment within that space that stands out for you and your company?
We've done a lot in the automotive space. Like I mentioned, we work with Grease Monkey Speedy, Full Speed Auto, and we've also worked with Earth Roamer, which is the large 500K plus luxury RVs. And then, others in that arena. We've also helped small local dealerships and larger organizations. So I'd say automotive is one that we've been in the most, but we really have helped like online learning in a variety of ways as well.
That's great to hear. And I think in particular, and I saw the quick splash again of the certifications, and because being Inspire Diversity, I also wanted to know which industries are utilizing the various different levels of certification that you bring to the table. So I think, again, in automotive, I don't want to speak badly about some of our car service, and no one from our auto lending services on the line, I think, for Chase. But again, that's a good point to kind of call out that, you are helping to diversify a very large segment that often maybe is not as, strong in some of the supplier diversity areas where other industry players could be, or setting the precedent. So I appreciate that. And again, great presentation. Awesome deck. Good job.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Tracy, for that feedback. And Anna, I'll turn it over to you. Any thoughts here for Paige?
Yeah, thank you, Paige. To echo Tracy's statement, yes, I appreciated the deck. It was you laid out all of the things that I probably would have asked. If I could think back, like what did I not see on the slide that I would have wanted to? And forgive me if it was on the slide, a little bit talking about the numbers behind your business, like how many more clients did you sign on? What did year one look like versus where you are now? Kind of some of those specifics. And I would, think about when you get to your page on, no pun intended, to the clients, think about maybe highlighting one. More often than not, you're going to be sending the deck out well ahead of the meeting, most likely. So people will get a chance to read through it. So I would save yourself time by reading anything that you see on the slides. If you have a slide that's particularly busy with the language piece and you probably have more words than you would like, try to focus on doing this where you have too much data. Write it out separately. Bullet point, what are the 3 things I want you to learn from this slide? Because chances are what you want them to take away is going to be lost in the whole slide. It doesn't apply to every single slide. And then as far as industry, right? So if you're saying that, by being able to play in multiple industries, I would consider that a benefit. But you did mention something where you've been able to possibly identify something in regards to strategy-wise, something that worked in auto that could work in banking. I'm making that up, but if you haven't been able to find what works in two spaces, I would highlight that as a very quick. We work all over. We would like to focus on this industry. We do most of our work in that industry. And we found that these two industries do well in the, this is what we found as far as the learning.
Great, thank you for that. It's helpful.
Great. Thanks so much, Anna, for that feedback. And Brad, I'll turn it over to you to close us out on feedback for Paige.
Thanks so much, Lauren. Paige, thank you so much. This was awesome. A lot of great detail. Having spent my last 6 years or so in JP Morgan Chase in digital, I love the whole end-to-end concept of how you look at things, like the whole solution end-to-end. I think similar to Anna, a lot of information. And I know you're rushed, right? A 5-minute pitch. So it was just a lot. And I'm not sure what I'm going to remember other than the end-to-end, which like really resonated with me. A couple of things that I would say to you, I didn't feel as much of a personal connection. Tell me a little bit more about you, your personal connection to like why this and how you lead with LGBT. What is the composition of your staff? How are you oriented? Like how big is the team? Is it largely LGBT? Is it partly LGBT? The other thing that I would love to hear, and I know this was probably a more generic pitch, like that you would bring to anybody that you were trying to grow business with. What are your growth plans? Like if you wanted to say, this is where I really want to grow my company, I want to focus more here, this is why I'm talking to you. Like I would have liked to have heard a little bit more like, where do you want to be? And so the pitch is going to resonate more with me because I can connect to that better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's always a hard one and just something that's held us back overall. I know there's been a couple contracts that we've lost because of size. So I purposely didn't put too much in because we are a growing company and we doubled during the pandemic. We're continuing to grow in size. And we also are a company that has growth plans and, are ready and able to say, okay, if we get, larger stuff, then we will absolutely be adapting to that more and more. But I do know that has been something that has held us back. And so trying to figure out how do we shape that conversation around it so that it isn't so focused on, we're a small business that's LGBT owned, blah, 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 and focusing more on here's what we are capable of. Here are clients that we've worked with this size and that we are in fact capable of helping larger corporations.
No, it's great. I appreciate that. And I guess it's who are you pitching to? Like, as I think about me and the business I like to do, I like to make a personal connection with those I want to invest in. So for me, it might resonate differently.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Oh, and I think, yeah, it's important to put more of the piece of my story and all of that in it. And then how do you focus on that within 5 minutes? So definitely things I will take away and think about.
Totally hard in 5 minutes because you got a ton of content in there. It was great. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your feedback.
Great. Well, thank you so much to our judges and thank you to Paige. Unfortunately, our third presenter for round one was having some technical difficulties and was unable to join us for round one. They may still join us for round two, hopefully. But I would love to do two things. First, I'd like to open the floor to any questions from the audience. So feel free to put those in the chat or feel free to raise your hand and we can call on you to unmute yourself. But while you formulate your questions, I'd like to turn it over to our esteemed panel of judges for any final thoughts you all may have about our first two pitches today, or any advice you may give to anyone in the audience who's looking to improve their pitch as well.
I would just say, try to focus on your why, because you want to leave a standing impression with anyone you come across. Perfecting your elevator pitch and then perfecting a capability statement meeting are two very different things. You get a chance to tell people who you are, what you do, and then your capability is a little bit more about the why am I here and why am I doing this.
Thanks for that, Anna. Tracy or Brad, any thoughts?
No, not really. I love what Anna just said. And it's a lot like what I was talking to Paige about when we were talking as well. Really good stuff. A lot of content in both presentations. I know it sounds odd. maybe slow it down a little bit. Maybe Anna said it just last, which is slow it down a little bit and focus on what are the key takeaways you want people to remember on a slide versus all of the things you have there. So, and how do you connect that to someone when you're speaking to them?
Great, thanks, Brad. Tracy?
Yeah, I would echo everything Brad and Anna shared. I also think too, again, knowing the audience a bit more, this is a pitch. So if you have a question for your audience members and who they're, representing, pitch that as part of your, I love to learn more about what you can provide. I've noticed XYZ company has done this in this sector. We would love to continue working with you. So always try and customize where you're able, that elevator pitch, that capability statement to fit that specific audience, so it resonates more with them, as well as you're tailoring something that could be hopefully much more bespoke to who you're connecting with too. So I'd add that in.
Great. Well, thank you so much to our judges. I don't see any hands raised or any questions here in the chat. So this will complete round one of our pitches today, but I want to give another big thanks to our program sponsors today, JP Morgan, and thank you to our judges. We are going to take a short break before round two, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back with some other great pitches. We'll be back in about 12 minutes. So we will see you all soon. Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to round two of NGLCC Sip and Pitch Fridays. Before we get started with round two, I want to give a special shout out and thank you to our program sponsors today, JP Morgan Chase. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Lauren Schweppe. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm our Director of Programs and Stakeholder Advocacy here at NGLCC. As many of you have probably heard or are already signed up and registered, this November we will be having our first ever return to in-person events, our Back to Business Summit down at the Diplomat Resort in Hollywood, Florida. That's November 17th to 19th. And if you're interested in learning more or registering, you can visit us at nglcc.org/summit for more information. It should be a great event. We're really excited. It's sort of a conglomeration of our three major events throughout the year. It'll include our Best of the Best Corporations for Inclusion Awards, as well as our yearly Gala Awards ceremony. So we're really excited. We hope you all can join us. We have both virtual and in-person registration. So again, please feel free to visit the page on our website to learn more, and we hope that you can join us. So before we get started with our first presenter for round two, I'd like to once again introduce our judges who are returning for round two. Anna Villarreal, Vice President of Supplier Diversity and Relationship Manager at JP Morgan. Brad Baumel, Managing Director and Global Head of LGBT Affairs. And Tracy Dennis, Vice President of Business Development and Global Supplier Diversity. So welcome to the three of you, and we're so excited to have you back with us for round two. So some rules and guidelines before we get started today. Each company who will be pitching will have 5 minutes to pitch. We ask that there's only one presenter from each participating company. Judges will have 10 minutes to provide feedback and Q&A for the presenters. And no presentation, no problem. This is designed to be informal, and we want to give you real-time feedback on your pitch, so no worries if you don't have a presentation. A reminder that if you're not speaking, please mute your microphone. And I know Maxine from our team put it in the chat, but if you're able to, please also rename yourself to add your pronouns here on Zoom. Our lovely Sean Honesty from Team NGLCC will be providing warnings at 1 minute and at 30 seconds. Sean, can you say hello?
Hi, everybody. Pleasure to be here and glad I can help out.
Great. Thanks so much, Sean. So again, please don't get mad at Sean for interrupting you. We aren't able to do any sort of ding sound or gong sound here on Zoom. So he's doing the best that he can to help keep you on time throughout your pitch. And this is a judgment-free zone. We are here to help you enhance your pitch and grow your company. So all feedback is shared in the spirit of collaboration. And last but certainly not least, have fun. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to our first presenter for round two, Jonathan Yeo with the Potential Space. Jonathan, take it away.
Great. Thanks so much, Lauren. Let me just get screen sharing going here. Okay, is that showing up okay for you?
Yep, looks great.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Jonathan Yo. My pronouns are he and him. And I run the Potential Space, which is focused on inclusive cultures, communication, and leadership development. Prior to starting up the Potential Space, I worked for Apple for about 10 years in those areas. I started with them in Australia, where I'm from, as you can probably hear from the somewhat messed up accent. So I worked with them in leadership development and then segued into inclusion and diversity with a focus particularly on inclusive leadership skills. So I now do that with a range of small to medium clients. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. So the way I position the Potential Space is that it's really about building more inclusive cultures. It's about creating higher functioning teams, building leadership skills, and really enabling individuals, whether they're leaders, whether they're individual contributors, to grow and develop to their potential. I call it the Potential Space because for me, this was actually one of the biggest learnings I had through my career experience. I think I started out thinking that people were either good or not good. And I sort of had that attitude early on, you find the good people and you work with them. And what I've really had the privilege to learn is that there is so much more than that out there, and there is so much potential. If you give people the right conditions, the right environment, the right support, the right tools, there is so much potential for individuals, for teams, and for organizations. So some of my, so as I said, I tend to work with smaller to medium clients, and these are some of the needs that I hear from them and respond to. So a lot of the work I've been doing has been around this idea of, hey, we're all in on this diversity and inclusion thing, but we don't really know where to start and what to do. Other things I hear is that need for manager development, particularly an entry-level manager. They need to know how to engage better with their teams. They need those people skills, those people leadership skills. The other thing I will hear about is that, hey, we've employed all these talented individuals, and how do we bring them together as a team and get more out of just the sum of the parts? And then the other thing I will hear is that, and this is a demand everywhere, everyone expects growth now, in their organization, in their individual experiences. And so how can organizations support that individual growth? So for me, those resonate with inclusive cultures, leadership development, team enablement, and individual growth. As I say, those are the 4 areas that I'm really focused on in the work that I do. So how I do this work, how I approach the work is really through 3 pillars: strategy, design, and delivery. And so I want to talk a little bit about each of those. I don't necessarily do all of these for every client. These are sort of levers that can be, we can lean into one more than the other. But frankly, I love doing all 3. So strategy is really around working with an organization or a team, working out where they're at, what might be possible. So often they don't know what's possible for them in the particular problems they're trying to solve, but also being realistic. And I have a lot of curiosity about organizations. I really want to make sure that we're being realistic. We're doing things that work within the culture, even as we maybe want to expand or grow the culture. That often leads then to the design phase, which is actually designing the solutions. And obviously I have like a category of things that I like to lean into, but for me, making those things relevant, whether it's a workshop, whether it's a longer term program, for me, the relevance to that team or organization, and that it's going to be impactful, that it's actually going to mean something, not just be a nice thing that we did. And then delivery is often a part that we then lean into. So I do a lot of facilitation. I love facilitating or speaking. And my preference with speaking is that it's tied to then a workshop or some sort of activity so that people get to land the knowledge. I do train the trainer. So often if an organization wants to take a program and run with it. And then individual coaching. So that could be an executive level, individual contributor level, but all around achieving potential. So that's how I approach the work. A couple of examples. I'm just going to put these up on the screen here because I know I am out of time, but I would love to discuss. These are some of the work I do with my current clients, and you can contact me here, and I look forward to discussing your challenges and working to solve them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that presentation, Jonathan. Judges, any feedback here for Jonathan? Brad, I'll start with you.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Really appreciate the pitch. A lot of really good content in here. A lot of it resonates with me because this is a huge focus of ours at JP Morgan Chase. I would suggest a couple of things. First, unless you're in it alone, which I doubt you are, you talk I a lot. I do this, I like that, I lead with this, but I'm thinking you're more than an I, you're a we.
Well,
so
yeah, actually, it's a good point, Bo, because I've messed around with that language. It is just me. So I do have partners who, you know, do similar things to me that I'll lean into sometimes, but I'm running my own
one-man show. Okay, so that helps.
And I used to say we, but I was worried that that was kind of being a bit misrepresentative.
No, but maybe you do. Maybe you need to lead with that, because to me, I was thinking, if I were to bring someone like a Jonathan on board, like, who's the team? How do we organize around this, or is it a one-man show dependency? So to be able to kind of lean into that might help. And then the other thing beyond that, I was thinking is, how do you potentially complement? Like, I know you said small to medium-sized companies, but often we all have something like this. So what is your value prop on top of something that might already exist in these small to medium-sized companies? How do you get in there and collaborate and complement and enhance or amplify something that might already be in place to make it better?
Yeah, that's great. And actually, because I do some coaching work for folks that are, you know, they're in like a DEI organization within a bigger company, and they just want some other coaching and perspectives, you know, because they might be new to the field or something. Yeah, so that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great, thanks for that feedback, Brad. Anna, over to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was great. So your deck was good. It was crisp. It felt very consistent and very much on brand. And I kind of found the same thing that Brad found. I'm like, is it just a one-man shop? And there's nothing wrong with that, but definitely very high level explain that is the case. You know, when you one thing that I really did appreciate was your slide on your needs and the talking heads. I thought that was very inventive, right? Because you were able to quickly and visually highlight some of the issues and problems that you hear in this space, and then tackle it with, I hear this, and this is how I solution it, and this is how I work through those issues. Kudos to you for not being flabbergasted by it's 60 minutes are up or 60 seconds are up, and then at the 30-minute mark. You know, what really resonated with me is that you're bringing yourself into this conversation, into the work that you're doing. And sometimes it's hard to do that. And maybe it's because you are a one-man operation, right? But to be able to speak to why you think this is, you're invested and it's important and you're curious and you want to learn more is huge. I would probably try to capitalize on some of the more logistics around what does your dream client look like? Who would you like to work with? And I would also probably, if you're able to right now, especially because the space that you're talking about, DE&I in that space, everyone's talking about it. So if you were able to identify a very good, and it doesn't have to be heartwarming, but a really good client story that you'd like to highlight with permission, I'm sure, of course, it might go a long way.
Thank you.
Great, thanks for that feedback, Anna. Tracy, over to you.
Thanks, and great job, Jonathan. Really enjoyed your presentation pitch. I think for me, and this is a unique space you're working in, and describing culture and describing organization within teams is not the most tangible service offering to get across, right? And so I do think that that slide that Anna mentioned, where you say some of the things I'm hearing from clients or questions I'm getting, I almost feel like you could start there with your presentation and get into the nitty gritty of like some of the biggest challenges people are facing. It's very timely right now in various industries. And so I think we almost don't even need the precursor of the importance of culture now, given where we are. This might have been great to ease people into this, maybe pre-2020, but I think now people are ready and willing to get to this work, get it right, and need the resources and support with a sense of urgency. So I would use that to your advantage in speaking to, again, your great experience you've had with other companies and how you've moved on to doing something individually now. But I think getting folks in early with that, I've got a problem, I'm sure you have a similar problem too. How can we work together to create that solution and that potential space, ethos that you really put out as your brand? I think that would really help and draw people in quicker. And then getting to those offerings, which unfortunately, because of the timing, we had to kind of skip through quickly, but that's really where I wanted to get into. Like, how are you doing D&I consulting? What are you doing around diversity training? That I think will help differentiate and also put you in a unique position to really offer value, where there are a lot of industry players right now trying to offer some similar sets of consulting and support services, and you really want to help to make sure that the potential space stands out of that, right? Yeah. So those would be some of my points of feedback. But again, overall, awesome presentation, great to learn more about your work, and again, love the branding even behind you with the Zoom background. So it helps stand out. I'm going to remember that logo, the colors, the scheme. It's great. So.
All right. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much. And thank you to our judges. So unfortunately, our other presenter for this afternoon did have an emergency, so they will not be able to participate. So we are actually going to move into our community and conversation aspect of today's presentation. So I want to give another big thanks to JP Morgan. And I'd actually like to turn it over to Brad and Nancy from JP Morgan, who are going to be leading us in today's community and conversation. So I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks again, Lauren. I think I'm up first. So if you could flip a slide for me.
I think, do you all have the slides? Yes.
Am I presenting or are you presenting?
You all are presenting, yes.
Oh. That is a great point. Nancy, do you want to go first, or are you more prepared to present?
Actually, Brad, let me share. I think this is going to work. Bear with me here, but let me share. And, okay, let's try this and see if this works. How's that?
Beautiful. All right, awesome.
Excellent.
Let's flip a slide down. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. Good afternoon. Guessing everybody is like US based here. So I start a lot of my calls with good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because they're all global calls, but good afternoon and happy Friday. Brad Baumel here from JP Morgan Chase. I have been 29 years I've been at JP Morgan Chase in a number of roles in all of our lines of business over the years, leading large kind of complex global teams and transformational efforts. In April of this year, I was appointed to be the global head of LGBT plus affairs, and I have never been happier. I have had throughout my entire career a day job, which was 24/7, and a gay job, which I found time for whenever I could instead of sleeping or spending time with my husband. And so my history is I spent my first 10 years at work deeply inside the closet. And of course, that's over 20 years ago, but that took a toll. And so ever since I came out at work, I've been on a campaign for making it easier for everybody else and really driving equity and inclusion for our community, both inside and outside of these four walls. I've done a lot of work, like I said, both inside and outside. In this new role, which is just a truly amazing role, I'm focused equally. And so to be here with NGLCC today and focused on LGBT plus small businesses is just like a joy for me. A little bit about me personally. I am married. I live in New York. We have a son, my husband and I. He is super cute. He's on this page. His name is Cooper, German Shepherd. So I tend to overcommit to things, i.e. JP Morgan Chase, 30 years, been married 25, I guess not technically because we didn't allow it way back then, but we've been together for that long. We've lived in the same home for 25 years. So like I like to stay on things. So if you could flip a slide for me, Nancy.
Sorry.
So right, that's perfect, exactly. The Office of LGBT Plus Affairs. So we are a full-time global dedicated team focused on inclusion and equity for the LGBT plus community, both inside and outside of JP Morgan Chase. We have developed a unified global strategy to truly drive equity and inclusion. We're partnering with the other, we call ourselves centers of excellence within diversity, equity, and inclusion, Black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian Pacific Islander women, diversity, disability inclusion, and veterans to truly drive this agenda in an intersectional way, because we all don't have equity and we all are looking for the same thing. So we're driving this agenda together, although I must say my focus is very specific to this community. So if you could flip a slide for me. So within JP Morgan Chase, the way we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion is against four key impact pillars. So careers and skills is our focus on employees. And so I do spend a bit of time focused on the growth and development of our professional staff. The second impact pillar is financial health and wealth creation. So these are our individual customers that we do business with in the consumer bank, wealth management, and the private bank. Our third pillar, most salient with this group and organization, is business growth and entrepreneurship, where we're bringing forward the next generation of LGBT plus owned businesses, both from a supplier perspective and from a business perspective. And we're doing all kinds of super interesting things, and you'll see more and more from us in the coming months and years. This year, we partnered with the other centers of excellence on a project we called Project Ingenuity, which was looking to provide opportunities for LGBT, well, for me, for LGBT plus founders, giving them access to grants that they didn't have or didn't know they previously had access to, bundled and packaged in a way that provided the administration to submit for those grants. This year and next year, we're working with an organization called Techstars to look at LGBT plus technology entrepreneurs focused. We're looking at women LGBT. We're doing this in 2 cities. The kickoff is in Houston, and then we're moving next year to DC. And then we're going to keep going on to other cities, providing LGBT plus entrepreneurs opportunity to access capital and grow their business and do all kinds of really cool things. So pillar 4 is community development. This is all the work we're doing to rise up equity and inclusion within the communities in which we operate. We're doing a lot of amazing work, partnerships with nonprofit organizations. You probably read the press about our $5 million commitment to 5 different NGOs earlier this year. Since then, we've gone global. Those were all US-based NGOs. We've gone global. We're about to do a whole suite of additional grants and sponsorships globally in Latin America, EMEA, and Asia Pacific. So flip a slide for me, please. Other way. No, it's all good. At least you have the slides. It's half of the battle. So key focus areas, data, number 1. we don't have our arms around the data. I say self-ID here, and that's often inferred as like people, employees, the people you're looking at internally. I need to know my LGBT population, but I'll turn that outwards and say it's equally important I can reach our customers, the businesses that we're doing business with, nonprofits. We need better data so that we know how to target all of this great work to provide the right access to the right people and businesses. We are driving things like inclusion through things like pronoun adoption. Talent management is a huge focus of ours. We do a lot of great work, like many organizations, with gender and ethnicity to recruit, develop, promote, and retain. I want to do a lot of that same work with the LGBT plus community once I've got my arms around who they are, which I'm working on. Huge focus on community, on profits, taking positions on public advocacy on a global basis. A suite of activities with customers and clients. These are individuals and businesses. And then continued efforts around public advocacy. So we've taken a number of very large positions on things, and JP Morgan Chase does carry a very strong voice, especially in the US. From my early work when we signed the amicus brief to overturn DOMA to eventually lead to marriage equality. And we've done a lot of these things globally to ensure that everybody understands how we and our community need to be included just like everybody else. If you flip a slide for me. I think, oh yeah, so this is the connect with me slide. In a presentation that I had done previously, which I don't have in here, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on, and you'll all see a lot more from us in the coming months, and I'm partnering with NGLCC, hopefully in a much more material way, to get to all of you more access, more capability, more potential. And so there's a lot more coming. So hopefully this is just a teaser, and you'll see more from me in the coming months. So please feel free to connect with me either on LinkedIn or come check out our brand new website that just launched last week. Here is a huge URL, or we've got a vanity URL. Now you could just type in your browser, www.jpmorganchase.com/LGBT. That will get you right to the same place. Nancy, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Brad. So much great work in this space. It's really exciting to see how the firm continues to advance really on behalf of, so many different people in the workplace, in the community, in our supply chain. So it's all just very exciting and really inspiring, I must say. So I'm going to try to advance the slides here. Apologize if I'm a little awkward with this, but so I'm Nancy Manchillo. I'm with JP Morgan Chase's Global Supplier Diversity team. Relatively new, actually 6 months with JP Morgan Chase, but not new to supplier diversity. So I may have met with some of you or spoken with some of you in the past in a previous role with the Hewlett Packard Company and its various, I call them derivatives, as the company separated, spun off, etc. I'm in our Plano, Texas location, and just happy to be with a great team, two of whom you got to meet today with Tracy and Anna. So we have a great team, and we're just going to talk a little bit about how we, can do business with JP Morgan Chase. So again, bear with me as I'm a little bit awkward on the slides. Apologies. Here we go. So I like to sort of start at the highest level, if you will, diversity and inclusion at JP Morgan Chase. And for us, that includes, of course, the workforce, our workplace, places where we work, and then the marketplace. And for us, the marketplace is our supply chain, and that is global supplier diversity. And we are tightly aligned with our supply chain. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in terms of our category leaders, those that represent the buyers, if you will, the lines of business who are acquiring goods and services, products and services from folks like you. So in your businesses. So that's sort of how we see this whole ecosystem, if you will. I think this is important too, because a lot of times people say, and I get it, supplier diversity, that's interesting. And it is, but there really is, I think, a very distinct role that we play and value that comes from that role. And by that, I mean, our role, of course, is to increase diversity. And I like to say, and inclusion, because, you know, we can be diverse, but we needed to be included. And so I think that's, you know, certainly part of our role to really advocate for that inclusion within our supply chain. We also want to create a supply chain that mirrors our customers, our employees, and our suppliers' changing demographics. With that, we can drive economic growth in the communities in which we do business, which again is kind of really what we're all about. So what does that look like? Apologies. We're going to talk in a bit about the value, but here I think this just gives you an overview of our size and scope. And, you know, the numbers are significant, as you can see here, but I think what's really impressive is the number of US households that we may touch somehow, some way, and of course, small businesses as well. I think that's, you know, that's really important, certainly to me personally. Let's see here. Here's the value slide. I love this because I think, again, secondary to our role, what value do we bring to the organization? And I think we create value in a variety of ways, but one of which is, frankly, to increase wealth in diverse communities, to provide a mechanism by which, you know, businesses can generate revenue and create wealth. The other item that I think sometimes gets overlooked is access to innovation, because, and we've seen some of that today in the presentations, because we have the opportunity to meet with diverse suppliers who bring innovation to organizations like JP Morgan Chase, new ideas, new products, new services. The other value I think that's so important to us, and I think you would all agree for your businesses as well, and you hear it, right? Differentiator. What is your differentiator? So we want to stand out, you know, in the corporate vantage point for the work that we do, much like Brad described. And also brand reputation. That's obviously very important too. So it's important to us. And maybe even the most important, frankly, is attracting and retaining not just tomorrow's employees, but those who, you know, can come to work for us today. We want to be the employer of choice. And I think you've seen by Brad's presentation and by my colleagues' participation in today's sip and pitch that, you know, this is something that's important to us as well. Let me move. Oh, sorry. I know you all know this, so bear with us, but it is important because you know that this is something that's important to us. So again, we hear a lot, oh, you work with diverse suppliers. That's good. That's nice. Well, we just like to share really what that is and those that we recognize. And I know you all know that, but it is a part of, you know, our presentation. So we do like to include that. And then with that, we look to third-party advocacy groups like the NGLCC to certify, but also to advocate. And the other thing that these partnerships do for JP Morgan Chase and hopefully for you as a business owner is to provide a network. I call it an access ramp, a pathway. It's a way for us to connect. And I think that's so important because we can't engage you if we don't know about you, and you can't sell your services to us or your products if we don't know about you either. So I think this is just really important to know that we do have these partnerships and they are very important to us because they bring us fabulous businesses like those of you here on the phone and on the webcast today. So we appreciate that. You may have read in the news that JP Morgan Chase did announce actually a year ago in October of 2020, long-term commitments to advance racial equity. We refer to it as a racial equity commitment. And what we see here is a $30 billion commitment over the next 5 years. And that's across the firm. That's in lending, it's in our retail banking. It touches really everything we do. But particularly for us in supplier diversity, think of it as a funnel. So we're at this real high level of $30 billion, but we kind of funnel it down very specifically into our supplier diversity efforts, which include a commitment of $750 million over the next 5 years, particularly around Black and Hispanic and Latinx owned businesses. Now, that's not to say, because I know, the first thought is, well, what about everybody else? What I've observed is that this has really opened the doors to many businesses. Yes, our focus for this particular initiative is on Black and Hispanic owned businesses, but that doesn't mean that we're not also working with and considering other segments, other diverse designations. It's kind of opened the doors, if you will, for all of our recruitment efforts in the supply chain. We do have a city strategy. And again, I want to be sure I couch this with the fact that, okay, well, I'm not in these 5 cities, so, now I'm not going to be considered. No, that's not the case at all. But because, as you all know, JP Morgan Chase is so large and our supplier diversity team is relatively small, we really wanted to target these 5 cities, and we've included in here why, so you have some, ideas around why this focus, and it would all make sense to you, I'm sure. The other thing, again, though, that I would suggest is that just because, you're in Boston, for example, doesn't mean that you wouldn't be considered for an opportunity. It's really all around demand. What are we buying? What do we need? That's really the drivers for us. And then our job, based on those needs, is to find qualified suppliers that can provide us that within our, diversity spectrum, if you will. This is probably the most important slide I can show you today. I think this is really so critical because this gives you an idea around the spend categories, meaning the types of products and services that we buy. We categorize them because you have to organize some way, right? So you'll see some very specific and detailed lists here under sort of larger groupings on the left. But all that to say, these are the things that we look for in terms of products or services. There may be some overlap in some of these categories, and that's fine. Don't let that dissuade you in any way, whether we call it professional services or IT services or technology. If there's a need there and you have a product or service that can help us meet that need, we will definitely, engage. So that is, I think, one of the most important things, as I said, that we can offer to you this afternoon. And I think maybe second most important slide, perhaps, is how to be in contact with us. So you can certainly Google us at jpmorganchase.com, if you will. I guess I should say in your web browser, as Brad said, so you can find us there. You can also be in contact with us via our, again, very straightforward supplier.diversity at jpmchase.com. So with that, I thank you all so much for your time, your participation, for those brave businesses who did their pitch. That's impressive, good for you. And thank you for the team that provided feedback. I think that's great. And do we want to open it up for questions, Lauren, or where do we go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. You can also raise your hand or unmute yourself if you have any questions for our presenters as well. You all were just so thorough that you don't even have any questions. Everything was covered.
Well, that's great. And if you should want to, if you think of something later or want to be in contact with us later, please feel free to do so.
We do have a question, actually. So this is a question for Brad. What was the evolution of your newly appointed office for JP Morgan Chase?
So it's a great question. Thank you.
It is.
And it's in my larger deck when I didn't think I would have like only 10 minutes to speak. So, what I love, I have the most incredible job. I've never been this happy in my life. JP Morgan Chase has been working on the LGBT plus agenda for decades. So while I said I spent like way too much time in the closet at work, 10 years, I've been doing what I do at my gay job for 3 years, 24 years. I think we established our first Pride chapter in 1996. So it has been a grassroots effort for decades. We formed our LGBT plus executive forum maybe 2017. We've now got over 350 out senior leaders in the firm, executive and managing directors. They were loosely trying to put a strategy together and try and shape the agenda. And then when our new head of diversity, equity, inclusion joined the firm 2 Mays ago now, Brian Lamb, who's just probably the most amazing manager I've ever worked for, he gets how it can't be just one group or two groups. It's all underrepresented communities need a focus and a seat at the table to truly drive equity and inclusion. And Brian helped us create parity, real dedicated structure around this community, working with the other peers on his leadership team to do an intersectional approach to this great work. So it's been decades in the making, but over the last 2 years, it's really shaped into a dedicated focus with a dedicated team that this is all we do.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. Now we got the questions flying in. So another question in the chat is around what is JP Morgan Chase doing around inclusion?
How many days do we have? A lot. I mean, it's hard to, so we've done a lot of stuff historically. That's certainly been amplified quite a bit since 2 summers ago and George Floyd, and ensuring that we were all listening to one another, giving people the space to talk and be heard. I focus on this a lot in my community from an LGBT plus perspective, ensuring that we feel like we have a voice at the table rather than not, that it doesn't matter if we think there aren't other people that look like us. There are. That's why we have 350 senior leaders that are on platforms that are outspoken so that people can use their voice and contribute. And I think one of the best things that we do as a firm is we know creativity, innovation, and our customer focus comes from being able to reflect the people that we serve and work for. And so we want that diversity of thought, of idea, of and that requires inclusion. That isn't just so it requires everybody to be able to have their voice heard and understood and listened to and acted upon.
Great. Another question here in the chat. Could you talk about the JP Morgan Chase Pride Group? What does the group do and how does the group function to support employees internally?
So Pride is our business resource group. We started as an employee resource group, but then we aligned ourselves to business because we are delivering business impact, and we can measure what we're doing. There are 30,000 of us Pride members globally, which sounds like a huge number, but it's not enough. I'm never happy, never enough for me. We have 250,000 employees, just 30,000 of them are signed up to Pride. We're in 30 countries, and to say something like 1,600 members in 1,600 cities. And so we do a lot. So they're part of me. So even though I have a small dedicated team as we build it out, I've only been live for a couple of months. The 30,000 person group is my army. So they work on everything I talked about before, the employee engagement activities and talent management domain, the client and customer domain. Like I pull people for day job work right off the line to work on these things, people that work in our branches, people that interface with business customers, and then the community outreach and advocacy space. So I leverage Pride on a global basis because the status of LGBT is very different in every country and jurisdiction you go to truly create impact.
Awesome. Another question we have, how would Embrace Magazine, who is one of our presenters today, work with JP Morgan as a print or digital magazine? And that's for both content and advertising.
So that is a great question, Nancy. What I was going to start with is I'm just building my marketing strategy. We've never had a defined LGBT plus marketing strategy. So I'm working, and I will into next year, is I've now just aligned, like I now have functional partners in marketing and communications and in branding to figure out like where we need to show up, what publications, what, newspapers, what social media. So like we're really just starting to work through it. So if you do check out the website that I had on our last slide, that's brand new. Like we literally just launched it last week. And so we're just really starting to show up in a more material way, and that will include a lot of marketing and in communications like the one we saw today.
That would be a great place to start. Definitely. I was also thinking about, potential, just as you said, Brad, potential marketing, maybe from a slightly different perspective, relative to the firms, the various offerings, if you will, to our customers, whether it be wealth management or, private banking, Chase, advertising, even just as a place to start.
Yeah, I mean, as I think about Embrace specifically, like we're so resident in Florida as an institution. There's a Chase on every corner, right? So it is an opportunity for the community in Florida to know Chase gets it, because I think that's the one thing we haven't done a great job at historically, is showing the community how committed we are to this agenda. So that is a place where we could start.
Yeah, so there's two possibilities.
Great. Well, it looks like we've got two more questions here in the chat. Dr. Tom said, I do stress management seminars and workshops, but I never see those as needs, but we know everyone needs it. How does one identify a solution to an unspecified need?
So that's a great question. And stress management is an excellent genre for people these days, right? Because if you think about what we've been through in the last 18 months, and I was just talking to my army, my 30,000 the other day about this, I look at my strategy, I look at the programs and initiatives that we've set out to do over the next 5 years. I was missing like health and wellness as an overall category of things, but people are stressed out more than they've ever been, isolated. We're still not all back in the office. And so I think there's a unique opportunity for businesses like that to have impact that they couldn't quite get to before, because of where we all are with stress levels and isolation and the need for more. So it's about creating that, what is your niche and how can you service those who most need it at an institution or an organization or in the community. It's how do you differentiate yourselves and what services can you provide that are missing somewhere?
That's a great point, Brad. And I think too, just wellness in general. I know stress is certainly a huge component of that, but sort of the broader wellness initiatives, I'll call it, those are my terms, but it's so important. physical health, mental health, emotional health, etc. So I think there's, I think there's room there for those types of services.
Great. All right, and then we got one final question here. What do you see that's working at JPMC in terms of building curiosity and connections between communities, not only intersectionality between ERGs, but with majority populations as well?
Gosh, I'll take this. I'll start this one, Brad. I see it every day. I mean, it's incredible to me. And again, I'm 6 months in. I don't know, maybe the honeymoon is still going on, but Brad's, what are you, 30 years? So I see it every day. I see it in our very localized within my Dallas-Fort Worth, community. I see it with our Chase for Business, our community managers. I mean, the list just goes on and on within our centers of excellence, and I'll miss one, so I apologize, but with all of our groups in terms of Women on the Move, our Veterans and Military Affairs, Brad, your organization, our disability organization as well. I mean, it's just incredible, I think. So the opportunity is there. I actually coined the phrase, if you dream it, we're probably doing it or would consider doing it. And I'm not kidding there. I've seen some really cool things going on in the 6 short months that I've been with the firm. Brad, you probably have many more specific examples, right?
What you said was great. What I would then add to it is that I think a lot of people are doing it right. I think the one differentiator for JP Morgan Chase, and I'm obviously biased having been here close to 30 years, is right, we're a business, we have bottom line needs, and we are in the business of adding customers, doing more business, stuff like that. But a lot of the work we're doing in this agenda, the diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda, is way more than that, right? If you think about, if anybody watched us help rejuvenate Detroit, the work, the money we put into simply rebuilding the community in Detroit, and then you'll look across the US at all of the community branches we're opening. Those community branches are branches, they're places to do business, but they're in places where there's a lot of underrepresented, underbanked, underserved people. And those community branch managers are out in the community building relationships, ensuring people have what they need, trust us, can come in, even if it's simply to seek advice on financial health and well-being. So we are a business that is serving the community in ways that people haven't served the community before. And that's how I think we differentiate ourselves in ways that others don't.
That's a great point, Brad. I was actually, just prior to this call, I was on a community manager, they call it highlights. I guess it's monthly, maybe. So, and they have guest speakers, and I was one. But the community managers themselves do such great work. And we're also embarking on community centers. So a branch is open, but it's so much more than a Chase branch. It's an actual community center where you can help, you can hold meetings, you can meet with others within the community, within Chase and other, affiliates that support our efforts in those particular communities. So it's really exciting to see, and to your point, in those geographies where perhaps in the past there was no bank, and maybe there wasn't a Chase Bank, but now there is. And so those doors are open. And even within those branches, we also have minority enterprise business, senior business consultants that work with small and minority-owned businesses around what their needs are. So that's just one example. There are many, as Brad mentioned, but I think that's the exciting part, is to have the opportunity to see that creativity.
Great. Well, Nancy and Brad, thank you so much. Any final thoughts here before I close this out for the evening?
Thank you for the opportunity today. Thank you to all the presenters today. You all did such a great job. So happy to be here today. Hopefully this is the first of many where JP Morgan Chase shows up to help the NGLCC and its members.
Likewise.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much. And thank you to JP Morgan Chase for being today's program sponsor. A huge thank you to our judges and our presenters for doing a great job. And of course, thank you to all of you for tuning in for today. I hope you can join us for our next Sip and Pitch, which will be on November 3rd. You can go to nglcc.org/sip-and-pitch to sign up. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful weekend and a wonderful and safe weekend ahead. And thank you again for joining us. So thanks, everyone.